Hi there, welcome back to the channel. I want to get on today real quick and just talk about the new coach hiring, Jeff Blashill, the newest head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. I believe the 42nd coach in Blackhawks history. Um, I've got mixed feelings about it. I know there's a lot of the fan base that is very unhappy with it, and I get it. I do get it, and I want to talk about why I maybe even agree with some of it. But I also want to maybe talk about maybe an underrepresented in terms of the volume meter of fans right now in Chicago. I want to talk about the flip side of the argument and why I think that I'm not ready to just say that Jeff Blashill being hired is some insanely outrageous bad move. I think it has a lot of potential to be a very good move in all actuality. So, um, Jeff Blashill, former coach of the Red Wings, it was the only time he's been a head coach in the NHL. Um, he was there for a while. I think it was like, I want to say 7 seasons. It was at least like 5 seasons, which is kind of crazy because you look at the stats of, today's NHL and you look at how long teams are holding on to head coaches. It's like around what 2 to 3 years max. It's more like 2 years. And so for him to get that long of a run is kind of crazy. But it's very important to remember the context. He gets to the playoffs in his first year there, but then right after that season, the upper management in Detroit, they decided to go full scale rebuild, scorched earth, tear it all down, and they never made the playoffs again under Blashill's tenure there. Um, so you could look at just those stats, just his record as a head coach in the league, and say that he has no business being a head coach in the NHL again. Um, but because I believe the best player at that time, during their rebuild, the best player on their roster was like Andreas Athanasiou, who's in the AHL currently. I really don't know if you can count that entirely against him. From what I hear from a lot of Red Wings fans, actually, they don't hold too much against Blashill. They understand the context and how he was dealt a really bad hand. He was there and he came in right at the wrong time. Just kind of the worst turn of events just for that situation for him. You look at what some traits about Blashill. What are some defining traits about him? The thing that I think encourages me the most and why I am not all doom and gloom about this hiring is that he runs a very active defensive unit. What does that mean? He he makes sure that all of his defensemen are very mobile, which is in step with today's NHL, the modern NHL, and the way things are progressing. Very successful teams have their defensemen very active. They're always stepping up to help in the offensive zone, and you know, they're making moves. It's not like they're sitting back and they're just waiting for the plays to come to them. They're getting ahead of it, and so that's very encouraging because you look at the Blackhawks and you look at what they've got right now, and they've got a lot of young, promising defensemen who would probably thrive in an environment where they're allowed to be very mobile and chip in, not just chip in on offense, but like be a huge part of that offense, create the offense. So you've got Artem Levshinov, Sam Rinzel, Kevin Korchinski, and Vlasic even chips in there here and there. They've got lots of big pieces, core pieces of this team that they're gonna absolutely want someone who can help foster that kind of system. So I'm very encouraged by that. In terms of development wise, he's coached at nearly every level, and he's had success at various levels. Um, in the AHL with the farm team for the Detroit Red Wings. I think it's the Grand Rapid Griffins. They won the AHL Cup with him at the helm there, which is very, very promising. What does he do after? What does Jeff Blashill do after he leaves Detroit, after he's fired by Detroit? Well, he goes to study under John Cooper, who I've said before on this channel. I think he's the best head coach in the league. I think he's the best head coach in the NHL. His track record is just, it's bar none in terms of coaches right now in the league. He's an assistant coach there for 3 seasons. They make the playoffs every single season he's there. I've heard, this is another area where I may be a little, some criticism is maybe warranted. I've heard from Lightning fans they're not very happy with Jeff Blashill. I'd love to hear more about why. I've heard that they said that he ruined the defense there. I'm not saying that's not the case, but I look at the Lightning's current defense core and I see a lot of aging players. So I don't know if you can rest the defensive woes of the Lightning completely on Jeff Blashill's feet. But it's definitely something that I'm taking into consideration. I want this discussion, I think, to be a very all-encompassing discussion. I don't want it to be, oh, here go the Blackhawks again making another terrible hire. Or I don't want it to be some completely trust in Kyle Davidson. He totally knows what he's doing. I'm a big Kyle Davidson believer. I give him a lot of credit. I'm very patient with his plans. But look, we should be critical when we think things are not, going the way they should. However, I think this scenario, I look at just the context of where the Blackhawks are right now. They were looking for a coach that, can have the perfect marriage of development and on-ice results. They were going after David Carl. I wanted them to get David Carl. I was really upset when they didn't, when he decided he'd go back to college, signed a multi-year extension. But then they took their time. I think there's a real reason they took their time, not only because, the future of the team rests on it. I think that's obviously the most important reason why they took their time. They wanted to get a full scope of the available candidates and then make the best decision. They really took their time. They took, it's been a while. It's been over a month since the end of the season. So they definitely, I think they really did their homework here. And the other reason I think especially Kyle Davidson, wanted to do his homework is that he may be putting his head on the line here if they get this one wrong, right? If they get this one wrong and they're tanking for another 2 years or so, they don't make any meaningful progress, Kyle Davidson could very well be fired. He may lose his job for this hire. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that they need to make sure that they get this one right. And I don't think that they're just going to hire just anybody just because they took all this time and they know the consequences, the potential consequences if they get this wrong. So I think all signs point to them knowing probably more than the average fan, right? I don't mean to kind of sell the average fan as like dumb or anything like that. But I do think that so much money, so much time, effort, and resources, and hockey IQ goes into these decisions. And at the end of the day, I think I'm gonna trust Kyle Davidson and company that he knows what's best for this team, that he's found a person who is able to do just that, which is to marry these two very difficult things to obtain, which is developing your young players, a lot of youth, developing them into the players that we really hope they can become, while also getting on-ice results, getting success. And there's many coaches who, they've had a first job in the NHL before, and they didn't go maybe so well, and they get a second go around, and then they improve greatly. You see that in Mike Sullivan. Mike Sullivan is one of those coaches that they got a second go at it, and then it was like a big boom, right? So I think that I would have. I'm glad there was John Cooper was the guy who was able to for Jeff Blashill to have guidance from. If anyone's gonna give the next Blackhawks coach guidance, I'd want it to be John Cooper, and that's exactly what we got. So yeah, I'd say in summary, I'm not over the moon about this hiring, not yet, obviously, but I'm definitely not doom and gloom. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he can do with this team. I haven't even mentioned the assistant coaching positions. I think that's going to be really interesting. You know, you get rid of some of our assistant coaches. I believe Kevin Dean's been fired. He ran the penalty kill and defense unit. And then I think Derek King may be going as well. I know Anders Sorensen, our interim head coach, I know that he's staying on. I believe he'll probably run some type of offensive unit, maybe the power play. When he was the interim coach in the second half of our season, I think that was probably the best part of our team, which was the offense. It was almost like the antithesis of Luke Richardson's style, which was more defense first. So keeping on Sorensen, I think, is a very smart move. And what I'm hearing is that they're going to be hiring Jeff Blashill is going to be able to handpick who he wants as his own assistants, which I think is extremely interesting. You know, you don't see a lot of lateral moves where, you know, you get assistant coaches from other teams that are already established and then they go to another team to be assistant coaches again. I think that speaks to Danny Wirtz's pocketbooks may be very open right now and giving full allowance for Kyle Davidson to say, hey, this is what I think is best, and this is what I think my new coach thinks is best. And Danny Wirtz says, hey, all right, that's what you think. This is why I hired you guys in the first place. So, yeah, I think that you get someone in there who can run the penalty kill and defense a little bit better. I think the penalty kill was decent this year, but it can be better. And from what I'm hearing, Mike Vellucci of the Penguins, I don't know for sure, and any Penguins fans may be watching, if you can tell me in the comments if this is true, but I think he runs the power play in there. If he can help run the power play in Chicago now, I believe the last year's stats for the Penguins on the power play was really good, like 6th best maybe in the whole NHL. So look, I think it's really exciting. We're getting a whole new crop of coaches here, and I'm ready to see what Jeff Blashill can do. But yeah, that's all I have for today. Just want to talk about the new hiring. Very excited. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.